valleys and everything in between. So the thing is, you have to find the gratitude and the things that you can be thankful for while you're going through those seasons. So I'll just tell you a couple of the unexpected seasons throughout our life and how we reacted or acted with them. So when we first married, I was also married to him before he became in law enforcement. He went to the police academy about 6 months after we got married. And so I had a job at Home Depot. I was the head bookkeeper there, so I was making pretty good money. And when he went to the police department, his pay from the job he had worked at a factory before, so his pay was getting cut about 50%. Well, during that time also, I got pregnant with our second child, and we both decided that I was going to stay at home and raise our children and be the moral support for our children and for our family and raise our kids the way we wanted them raised, not the way that the daycare moms wanted them raised and things like that. And so I was leaving my job, so that was getting cut by 100%. So that was one of the kind of unexpected things with financial. We expected it because we planned it, but unexpected because we didn't really realize at the beginning how much of an impact that would make on our life. And so, and then one of the next things was when my oldest son was 2, for Christmas that year, my husband was found one of those, little trucks that you could drive around, and it was a police car, and the little battery-operated things, and so we had nowhere to hide it, so he was going out on Christmas Eve to go pick it up for him, and he had just bought a brand new Ford 150 pickup truck, and it was 2 weeks old, and he picked up the truck from Toys R Us and was driving home and got hit by a drunk driver, totaled his truck. The driver was uninsured, of course, but my husband was okay, so that was a good thing. He was, quite a bit banged up and bruised up, and so our Christmas, instead of spending it with the family and, all those things, you get to make that excuse to all the different family members when you go to his side of the family, when you go to your side of the family, the gatherings, and they all are like, why is your husband not here with you? And so, of course, a lot of times they have to work, but he was actually resting at home that year. But still, so that was an unexpected thing. But, the grateful thing and the thing to be thankful for in that was, we did have insurance on it, at least, of course, and he wasn't hurt at all other than bruised up and banged up, so. And then fast forward a few years later, his back had been hurting, and he had been for a while doing different physical therapy things and chiropractors and stuff. We actually even drove all the way up to Iowa to a chiropractic specialist to try to help him, and nothing was working. And so he finally, a doctor talked him into back surgery and basically led him to believe that it was going to be perfect and he was going to be just like new afterwards. And so we were hopeful, and that didn't turn out the way we had wanted. And so he ended up being off work for about 5 years, and during that time, I had to get a job because he had a lot of medical expenses. He was in therapy 5 days a week. I was at the time volunteer teaching at my kids' Christian school, and so I worked at the school every day, 8 to 3, and then I came home and answered phones for a company from 3:30 to midnight every single day. Luckily, I was able to find a job from home, so that's another thing to be thankful for. I was still able to be at home with my children and my husband and take care of them. But it was also, a trying time, and so things we had to work out. And then through that, he had been on a lot of different medication, and so I won't go into a lot of that, but that's a lot of different emotional, physical, spiritual, all the kinds of things, pain for the whole family pretty much. But we did get through that. He finally, with enough therapy, physical therapy and things, his back got better, and he was ready to go back to work, and he missed the police department a lot. And so, like they say, once that blue's in your blood, it's there to stay. So he was going through the political stuff of talking to different departments, because the department that he was on, several of the guys in that department had moved to one of the other departments in the next city over, and some went out to the county and things like that. So he was kind of talking with different officers and, you know, different places to decide where he wanted to go back to work. And in that, he got a job. He finally decided where he was going to go back to work, and he was supposed to go back that following July of 2013. And so, and then in that, he got in that interim. He was feeling better and doing better, so he didn't want to sit at home and play video games anymore, even though that's what he liked to do. So he got a job driving for FedEx in between. And at the beginning, he really liked it because he said, you know, you're delivering a box. What can happen to you, you know? And it's people want you coming to their home, where, you know, in the police department, people a lot of times don't want you coming to their home. So he was like comparing a lot of the different things with his life and going back to the lifestyle, but I knew that that's where his heart was and where he wanted to be, helping people. And but in that February of 2013, you kind of mentioned it 2.5 years ago, when all the snow came and the ice, and in Nashville we're less prepared than y'all are probably up here, because even though it's just a little bit north, it's still a lot more, but we rarely salt our roads down there and everything. And so, but a lot came that night, really strong and really bad. And I was actually, I've been a distributor for a greeting card company for 11 years now, and I speak for that company all over the world. And I was actually in Knoxville training for that company to put on a big training seminar for that company for a few hundred people. And we all had our cell phones on the podium so we could keep track of how long we were supposed to speak and things like that. And my husband's boss phone number came across as calling on my phone, and of course it was on silent, but still, and I didn't even remember ever having his FedEx boss phone in my phone. And so my husband must have put it in there at one point for some reason. And so they were just getting ready to announce all the speakers, and I just tapped one of the ladies that was speaking with me on the side, and I said, cover for me, I need to go to the restroom and check something out. And so when I did, I called, they let me know that there had been 157 wrecks so far that morning, and there had been 1 fatality recorded so far, and it was my husband. And one of the grateful things that you can kind of say through that is it was instant, so he wasn't in pain for at all or very long if there was such. But with that also, you know, the next, I don't know, I remember the next few weeks, my mom raised me in a very positive environment. You know, my mom always taught me, find good in everything, find things to be grateful in everything. You can always find something to be grateful for. And in the company that I work for and speak for, they teach and preach that same thing, you know, and in our church they teach that same thing. But after I got that news, it was like all that stuff went out the window, you know, and all I thought about was, you know, okay, where's my life going to be the next 20 years, and what am I going to do, and, you know, and my children, and I kept dwelling on, you know, what my kids are going to be missing, and what I'm going to be missing, and, you know, our whole family, and I remember getting a card in the mail, and I got lots of cards in the mail, especially because of the company that I work for, but just, I was blessed to get lots of love and support and things. But I remember I got this one card in the mail, and it said, I should have brought it, but it said something like, you know, basically don't focus on what you're going to be missing, be thankful for what you had. And I remember that was the first time that I smiled, like true smile, not just the fake smile in front of everybody to get through the funeral and things like that, you know, but truly smiled. And I realized, you know, yeah, I've had, you know, God gave me 20 years with him, married, you know, 22 years dating and things, you know, so, and we had, you know, had 4 great kids together, and, you know, lived a wonderful life, and I know also, especially through through going through life, you find people and people talk about their marriages and things like that, and everybody has problems, right? Everybody has issues that they work through or whatever, and the ups and downs times. But I know some people, like, they've never had that, quote, true love, and I knew that I had that. So I focused on being thankful for that, and, I was able to have that, and focused on my children, and, started learning how to do those things. But, and then another thing was, because he was going back to the police department, everybody knew that that's where his heart was and everything. A lot of the officers decided that they were going to give him the honor ceremony, even though he wasn't killed on the department, in the line of work, but he was going back to that, and everybody knew that that's where his heart was, and he was there for so long, and so it was really neat. I had one of his best friends that was a police officer spoke at the funeral, and if a bad person wanted to do anything in the whole county all around us, that would have been the day to do it, because every officer was at the funeral. And I still really don't remember a whole lot of it because I was still in that shock state, but I remember people telling me that there was no room for anybody to park, that there was people parking like a mile down the road and walking through the field to get to the funeral and things like that. So anyway, that's all I have for you.